happy that you're back and you've joined us. I am Suzanne because if Sue can, you can too. Welcome to my show. It's positive TV making a difference. Yes! All right. So, when I was a little kid, I remember, now this is Buffalo, New York. I remember years ago when I was real little, and we were waiting for my father to get home from work. And I was outside, and we had gotten a lot of snow. And I was shoveling the driveway with my mother. And we're talking, and we were talking about astrology. And I wanted to know what her thoughts were. I had a dream once, around the time that I had asked her, that I looked up in the sky and that I was able to see the planets, and I'm blinded at looking at the lights now, and I was looking at the planets and that they were labeled with a popsicle stick, and I had a paper on it that said like Jupiter. Like I was able to look up and see them all labeled, and I was just so intrigued. And when I was little and I used to go to the store, like in the candy aisle, they used to have them little scrolls of the astrology. I always got mine and read it. I thought it was so cool. Well, guess what? We have a real-life astrologer with us today. And she is a wonderful good friend of mine. And there's just so much more, but I'm being super careful to laser point and not scatter, because you guys know that I do that. So I'm working on it. All right, so it is my honor to introduce my very good friend, wonderful person, Cassandra Butler.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Yay!
What a great introduction. And I'm kind of already pumped up just by listening to that intro.
Wasn't that fun?
Yeah, it was. And I love the stars too. I didn't know what they meant, but we was looking up and enjoying astrology even as a little kid too.
Yeah, it's intriguing, and it just makes you wonder what's out there.
Exactly.
So how did you get into astrology?
Well, I had one of those wonderful households where my mom was just my best friend, and we would sit there and philosophize. Remember, I'm a little bit of a child, not quite a full-blown 60s, but we grew up when astrology was pretty commonplace. It was coming out of the astrological closet. So, you'd go out and you wouldn't say, what do you do for a living? It's what's your sign? So it was very, very relaxed and commonplace in my household. And I believed in it naturally without knowing anything about it as a kid. And it was just the environment. We had a very traditional household, but we also had an interest in things that are a little different because it was the 60s. And I really was kind of skeptical about it until I had my first reading. And that was in my teenage years. And it blew my socks off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just as a side note, that's exactly what happened to me with her.
Thank you, Suzanne. Well, when I say, because when a stranger looks at your chart, which is a map of the sky when you were born, and is able to pinpoint not just like who you are, but certain cycles that you've been through, and you're amazed. And it got my interest going right off the bat, and I did a lot of self-study before I took some formal classes, and I never looked back. And I was trained as a social worker. And so I know all the social work techniques, but then I was kind of in the closet studying my astrology. And then over time, I became professional because I started seeing clients. And, I don't know if you know this, but I started really doing the astrology because I was the astrologer for the Metro Community News, which is a newspaper here in town.
Wow.
And with some apologies, I think it was cutting my teeth because I wasn't really as sophisticated with my knowledge as I am now, 30 years later. But it was a way for me to test a lot of theories with people, and the rest is kind of history. So it hasn't left me, and I haven't left it.
Wow. Wow. Now, is there any science to this at all?
Yes, there is. It's really a science and an art, and like any profession, it has a history, it has a professionalism. It's becoming much more professional over the years. But the science piece of it simply is this, and this is what trips people up, because they can't imagine that these planets are controlling us like little puppets on a string. And it's not like that at all. It's more archetypal, more artistic. The science part is that it's based on the actual location and the cycles of all the planets and the relationship of the sun and the moon. And so you can track any position of all these bodies, Suzanne, from from antiquity to all the way in the future. And astrology is not just for people. It can be used and utilized for cities, for countries, and for time periods as well.
What
So
about
it's
your pets too?
absolutely your pets.
Wow, oh my gosh. So your pets and cities and even
Yeah.
the US, right?
Yeah, even the U.S. I have to tell you a little story. So I'm at a computer desk this weekend, and I was chatting with this man, and he was very sweet. He was working on my computer, and he's also a psychology PhD person. And I told him what I did, and he said, "I don't want to insult you, but do you believe this, or is it placebo?" And I said, I really respect that question. I said, because I use it with my animals, they don't know placebo.
Wow.
By that I mean you can really track an animal's personality or their cycles and so forth. I have some cute little stories. For example, my daughter, we have this beautiful dog whom I think you've met, little Teddy. He adores my daughter, and he's lined up perfectly in her partnership house. And I'm the alpha animal in my household. I feed the dog, but he loves my daughter. He follows her around. It's I think astrology has an explanation for it.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Let's see. Where are we going to go to next? Should I check my
Lots.
notes?
Anything you want, my dear.
All right. So the Great Eclipse.
Yes.
This was like a major,
Yes.
huge deal.
Uh-huh.
And people were freaking out, and I don't know what the heck it was or whatever anyone's talking about. So can you please
I surely
help us
will.
to understand so we feel like we have a sense of...
Sure, sure. You know, it was a lot of hoopla that was being made on August 21st for the Great American Eclipse. So named because it was a solar eclipse, which is very rare to be seen on one continent. It went right across the band of the U.S. from Oregon to Charleston. And so that part of the country in this 70-mile radius was swathed in darkness. Now, eclipses come around with routine regularity. This particular eclipse comes around every 20 years, but not total. And it's especially relevant to the U.S. because when the United States was born or formed, it had the same eclipse in Leo that was taking place in August of 2017. But this particular eclipse was powerful, and because it was only seen on the continental U.S. So as an astrologer, actually I put together an eclipse retreat because I knew we would be in really crisis mode in the country around that time. And of course, that's reflected by all the natural disasters we had. I mean, the most powerful hurricanes ever, right? And then the earthquakes and the uproar. Really, it hasn't quite let up with as we're being viewed. I mean, we are in a state of tension in the world. Don't want to give a voice to that, but you know, there's a lot of tension going on in the big room, and the astrology would reflect that with our United States right now, and it's a turning point basically for the country, and it's very, very, very powerful. And then if you look at the cycles as we go through next year in 2018, we'll get the reverse eclipses in February and once again in August. So eclipses are patterns like everything else in astrology, Suzanne. So the eclipses that are taking place in February, which is the polar opposite of the one we just had, will be able to hopefully kind of calm down some of the rhetoric and the concern and the crisis feeling that we were having experienced in the past, well, at this point, at least 40 days since August.
Good. So that tension will ease up a little bit, you think?
Yes, that's the, I guess, description as opposed to a prediction, but because it's called the Great American Eclipse, because it mirrors the eclipse that took place. You mentioned animals can have charts, well, countries can have charts too. And so the U.S. has a destiny mark or an eclipse in the sign of Leo.
Wow.
Which is suggesting this. We're a country of leadership, and we're a country which reflects the pursuit of happiness. Because I think you might know this as a Leo. Leo is the happy sign. And it's the sign of individuality. It's the sign of graciousness, creativity, joy. And this is the only country I know of that codified that dogma that we have the right to pursue our individual happiness.
Right.
And that's a Leo. That's a Leo thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so that's pretty darn cool. But that particular one hasn't happened since since the United States was born.
Born, right, with that intensity, because it was solar. Because there are different forms of eclipses. There are partial eclipses, there are total solar eclipses, there are lunar eclipses. So the one we experienced was a total solar eclipse that earmarked just the continent of North America.
Wow. Okay, that makes more sense now.
Okay, good.
I get it.
I'm glad.
I get
I'm
it.
glad.
Sweet. Now, backing up to just like Astrology 101, we're
Sure.
much more than just a sun sign.
Absolutely. Like I said, when I first started being interested in astrology, that was the take of the 60s time. You know, what's your sign, honey? Have all the signs in our chart, because the chart is a map of the sky. So you might be a Scorpio or a Leo sun, but everybody has Scorpio or Leo somewhere in their chart, all 12 signs. But the most important in terms of description would be our sun sign, what time of the year we're born, our moon sign, where the moon was located when you were born, and the rising sign, which is the sign on the eastern horizon, and that's based on your time of birth.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the rising sign is kind of like your candy wrapper, right?
I love that. Yeah. It's like your candy wrapper. It's your persona. It's your mask. It's how you come across to other people. And so sometimes people will say to me, "Oh, can you guess my sign?" I go, "Well, probably not. I might guess your rising sign, because it's how we come across is very different than perhaps we're all complex people, and astrology really describes that. So the moon sign might be our private part of ourselves that we only show to our beloveds, our family, and our intimates, where the rising sign we show everybody, and then we develop into our sun sign over the course of our lifetime.
Wow.
And then, of course, we have a sign for career. That's the Saturn. We have a sign for genius. That's our Uranus. We have our sign for Jupiter, which is our sense of expansion and joy and philosophy. We have all these different planets which denote, which indicate all these complexities of the human being. And they're always being influenced by the passing of the energy in the sky, basically.
Wow.
But it's not mechanistic. I want to make that emphasis. Because if it was, it would be, kind of boring to say that the moon made me do it.
Now, this is a question that I think everyone sort of already knows the answer, but I'm just looking for some confirmation here. That when there's a full moon, there's like crazy things that happen, like the ERs are more busy. So what's up with that?
Oh, that's a great question, because astrologers have been studying this for eons, but there is a form of scientific study called cosmobiology, which in my mind is simply astrology, cosmobiology, which really states that, yes, indeed, there is evidence that there's more bleeding during surgery and more rests and more implications for the mental health field, people are more admissions and so forth. And I think tonight there's a beautiful full moon.
Ooh.
The harvest
Or should
moon.
I say, oh, right?
Exactly. But actually, technically, the 48 hours before the moon is exactly full, that's called the gibbous time of the month. That is the time which is more prone to this type of disruption, because the full moon mirrors, it doesn't create, it doesn't cause, but it mirrors a sense of opposition, because the sun is, you might say, the yang principle, the male principle, and the moon is the female principle or the receptive principle, and there's a tug of war, hence the full moon.
I understand.
Do you?
I'm getting it.
All right.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
All right. So there's something that's coming up, and we're going to have some fun with this, because we're going to go around all the signs. So
Yes,
what are we going to talk about here?
Exactly, my dear. So there's mini cycles in astrology, and then there are bigger cycles. And we take all the planets that you all remembered studying in, fourth grade. And there's the planet Jupiter that's moving into the sign of Scorpio on October the 10th. And it's going to be in the sign of Scorpio for 1 year.
So 10-10.
10-10, look out. There's going to be a shift. It's all very subtle, because, life is subtle. But Jupiter going into the sign of Scorpio reinvigorates something that happened 12 years ago. And so what I thought might be fun, I could go through all the signs. You want me to do
Great,
that? Okay.
yeah.
And see what is going to be reinvigorating. Now, Jupiter is the planet that's associated with the archetype. Again, astrology is artistic, poetic, and archetypal. So the image of Jupiter is that of Santa Claus. So Santa Claus is visiting the Scorpio parts of our charts.
And he's going to leave some goodies there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So depending where it falls in your chart and what of the 12 areas of life, it's going to enhance and create a lot more abundance in that arena, in that area of life.
Ooh.
Now, can I let this cat out of the bag and say you're a Scorpio rising? Is that okay to say that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So our beautiful hostess is Suzanne is a Scorpio rising. So that means you are starting a new 12-year cycle beginning in October, and it lasts for a year. So greater opportunity, more charisma, more sense of enjoyment, more confidence, more opportunity. It's the opportunity planet.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
and
yes,
what
yes.
piece of pie and what
And your
aspect?
piece of pie would be your first house,
Excuse me.
yourself.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
that could be my waistline too, couldn't it?
Oh,
Right? We
gosh.
don't want that.
Well, I know that's where the free will comes in, because astrology doesn't mandate. It just makes us aware, so we can make better choices. But
Wow,
yeah,
how
so
exciting.
it's going to be a great year for you.
So Jupiter is entering Scorpio
Yes.
on 10/10,
on 10/10,
and whatever
house it falls in.
is going to be what's going to expand.
Correct.
Okay.
Now I just happen to know your chart.
Yes, you do.
So we know that you're a Scorpio rising. If you guys don't know your rising sign, I have a free app on my website. Go to my website and it'll show you where your rising sign is. It is Astrology 101, because I want to really get this word out to people that you could just find where your rising sign is,
Great.
which is your mask, and then most people know their sun sign. Mm-hmm. So for tonight, just pretend you don't know anything about astrology and just relate to your sun sign.
Okay. Nice and simple.
All right, we'll make it simple. So if you're an Aries, or an Aries rising, but we'll just say Aries sun sign, born in March to April, this Jupiter is going to be going through your psychological and spiritual powerhouse, the area of your life when you're really enhancing your own personal drive to succeed, and it's also financial for the Aries. They might be making new investments or working with new people for financial success over the course of the next year, if you're an Aries. If you're a Taurus, this beautiful Jupiter energy expansion is going into your partnership house, marriage, and best friends. It's going to be a great time for healing if you happen to be married, if you're a Taurus, or perhaps attracting a new significant other. It's the significant other house that's being activated if you're a Taurus. If you're a Gemini, it's all about the work and your health. So you might be taking more pains in taking care of yourself in a new way, starting a new exercise or diet program, or perhaps riving up the way you do your work, maybe getting some new tools, getting a new computer, maybe even getting a new job if you're Gemini. For the Cancer people, the sun sign Cancer people, this is all about your playfulness, your fun, your hobbies, your creativity. And if you Cancer folks have any children, you might be expanding your time and your joy with spending time with the kids. Or if that's not in your future, it might be grandkids. I don't know. I mean, it's just expansion of children. If you're Leo, yes, so you blend that with being the Scorpio rising, of course. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a great year to set the foundation better in your home life. It could be a move, a remodel, expansion of home, and becoming much closer to your loved ones in the family.
Wonderful. Good.
So that's double whammy for you, darling. If you're a Virgo, it's all about your communication. So Jupiter or Santa Claus is in your house of writing, speaking, teaching, and anything having to do with marketing. And Virgo is a really great sign for communication because it's Mercury ruled. So this is a great time for the Virgos to do that type of activity if they're a writer or teacher or something like this. Mm-hmm. If you are a Libra, it's all about the money, greater income. Santa Claus is visiting your income house, so greater opportunity to make new headway perhaps even a hobby might become more of a lucrative moneymaker for the Libras. If you're a Scorpio sun sign or Scorpio rising, it's all about you. It's all about enhancing your message, your confidence building, opportunities galore, and you'll be taking more risks with mandating that your dreams become more of a reality. It's a lucky year for the Scorpios.
Woohoo.
And again, you can test all this theory, by the way, by going back exactly 12 years ago, all right, and in 2005-ish, and see how this might be, because it goes into 2018, of course. If you're Sagittarius, it's all about your retreating into your own spirituality. You might need a little bit more of a tune-up, get away from the crowd, so to speak. And you might find yourself praying, meditating more, and being a little bit more reflective if you're Sagittarius. If you're a Capricorn, it's about your associations and your friends. So who are your best buddies? You might be spending more time with your associations, your groups, meeting new friends, being in the center of action with your particular groups or associations. If you are an Aquarius, it's time for you to launch that career idea that you've been sitting on for a few years. So Aquarius people might be launching a new business, or perhaps becoming promoted in their career, or maybe changing or even retiring. It's like they're changing something that they're doing in the outer world. And last but never least is the beautiful Pisces people. If you are wanting to get some education, Pisces, this upcoming year is perfect, because Jupiter also means education, and it's going to be in your education house. And if that's not your free will to choose to go back to school or something, it might be a great year for travel, because Jupiter's also, like Santa Claus, the great traveling planet.
Oh, yeah.
Think of the archetype of Santa Claus, traveling the globe. So this is going to be a great year for the Pisces to do their traveling and or education, and learning something about their own philosophy of life.
How cool is that?
Yeah, and that's the beneficial planet energy for 2018, because again, it starts in October and it goes right through until October of 2018.
So a full year in each house.
Exactly. And then on a side note, because Jupiter in Scorpio represents the financial world, we'll probably be seeing some amazing changes in the bigger financial markets in the upcoming year. And then a really far off prediction is the time in May, and but that's another cycle altogether that we'll be talking about hopefully in May. But so much so, it's going to affect our beautiful city of Buffalo.
Ooh.
That Buffalo might be expanding and doing some beautiful work in the financial sector and coming more apparent in the world stage. That would be my little mini prediction for Buffalo.
Ooh, and you heard it first right
yes,
here.
Come the springtime.
Wow. We have a couple questions.
Sure.
Excuse me. From some listeners today. And we
Yay.
posted it on our Facebook page. And we have two questions. We have Kim M, who says this: how do identical twins with the same exact birthday have totally different astrological outcomes?
Well, it's the old nature versus nurture. This is one of the misconceptions of astrology right off the bat. And that's why a lot of people kind of shy away from astrology, because nobody wants to believe that we're mechanistically controlled by planets, right? But when we take a look at people who have the same birth day, we can analyze it even down to the moment, because oftentimes two babies coming out at approximately the same time are not breathing at the same time. You know, baby number one of the twin set may be born at 10:12, and the other child would be born at 10:16. Those minutes make a difference in the chart. So you would not recalculate, but every minute the chart changes. So unless two babies come out breathing at the same time, which just doesn't happen with twin births, you still have different charts. So that's why they have different outcomes.
Okay, very
Yes.
good. And one other question from a viewer, Tiffany Ann asks, why as a Libra do I crave and require peace and harmony, but can't get it in my life? If that makes any sense.
That's a great question. Is it Tiffany? Yeah.
Tiffany. Yes.
Tiffany, great question, Tiffany. Basically, I would give that's a broad stroke question, so I'm going to do a broad stroke answer. Each of us have a sun sign. That's our inner self. And each sign has basically a marching orders. So the marching orders of Libra is peace, harmony, diplomacy, kindness, and compassion, right? That's what Libra is all about. So we have to learn those skills by perhaps being exposed to conflict, difficulty, and challenge. You see, so it's easy to be conflict-free if you are, in a monastery somewhere without another person. So my sense is that you are actually learning how to be yourself, which is Libra. So therefore, you might be confronted with more difficulty or conflict. And the other thing about astrology is that our sun sign is what we're striving to become. We are all unique, beautiful souls. And the astrology says, I am a Libra, I'm a Scorpio, I'm a Leo. It takes a lifetime to kind of cultivate that knowingness and that authenticity.
Oh.
So
that makes sense. Well,
Good.
we only have about a minute left, so let's get to your website because you can populate your own chart for free.
Yes,
Go right ahead in the last minute.
Yes, CassandraJoanButler.com. I have articles there, and I have all my events listed there, including I'm doing a lot of research with international conferences, one in Buffalo, New York on the 20th of October, one in Florida, and one in Chicago. Astrology is all about the research, and it's changing and becoming a lot more scientific.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. Thank you so much,
My
Cassandra.
pleasure. That flew by.
It does, and it's just so easy because it just goes that way. It's so much fun.
You're a wonderful, wonderful
Thank
dear.
you. So that's all the time we have today. We are just about out of here. Thank you for joining me. And we will have the You Can Minute. So if you have questions, go on my website, SuzanneSucan.com. Fill out a question and see if yours is answered on the air. We'll see you next time on the You Can with Suzanne show. Positive TV. Positive TV making a difference. Bye, everybody.